Today I'll be showing you how to make this delicious and, might I say, pretty lemon elderflower cake. Can you guess why I was inspired to make it? Okay, let's get started. Starting off this delicious lemon elderflower cake by sifting all the dry ingredients together in the bowl of my standing mixer. 2 1/4 cups of cake flour, 1 heaping teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of kosher salt. Don't forget that 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. If you want to reduce the sugar in this, feel free. You could probably take it down to 2/3 of a cup and be fine. In fact, you could also decrease the sugar and increase the elderflower syrup, as that is quite sweet. Let's sift those together. You can really see how fine that cake flour is as it's flying all over the place. I always get questions about substitutions from people, and let me tell you, you could use all-purpose flour. It will be okay, everyone will live. And if you can't find sour cream, use yogurt instead. That's totally fine. Just use whole milk plain and you'll be fine. Add it onto our standing mixer and set aside. Away you. Okay, now for the wet ingredients. People always ask me, what do you do with the egg yolks? The answer is anything you want. But today we're gonna make a lemon curd with them, and that curd is gonna be in the filling of the cake. Delicious, fresh, perfect for summer. Make sure those eggs are at room temperature. Don't use cold eggs, people. Egg whites in one bowl, egg yolks in the other. If you get a little piece of yolk in the bowl, it's totally fine, don't worry about it. Clean hands is always the best way to separate egg yolks and egg whites, in case you're wondering. You can tell how fresh eggs are because the whites are more gelatinous and they hold together better. These eggs are fresh. Later on, we'll be straining these egg yolks just to get rid of the little membrane and using them for our curd. It's gonna be delicious. If you're wondering, you can totally make the cake a day ahead, make the lemon curd a day ahead and have it set perfectly in the fridge, and then decorate the cake all at once. Even the Swiss meringue buttercream can be made ahead of time. Set those yolks aside. Now we're gonna add in our milk, 1/4 cup of room temperature sour cream. I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of my elderflower syrup, heaping tablespoons. It smells delicious. If you can't get your hot little hands on some elderflower syrup, mine came from Amazon. I don't know which supermarkets carry it. You could go ahead and use some Saint Germain, also made out of elderflowers, and then create like a simple syrup with that. I would cook it down a bit for some less alcohol, unless you play that way, and then just add that either into the cake ingredients or spoon it over the top of the already baked lemon cake and just skip this. I'm adding in the zest of 1 lemon into my mixture. Juicing my lemons, and I want about 1/3 of a cup. Never use pre-made lemon juice. That is not acceptable and it'll ruin your cake, unlike anything else. Let's measure this out and add it into our wet ingredients. Perfect. Now give it a whisk. Just gonna add a little dash in. Set that aside, and now it's time to cream our butter along with the dry ingredients. When you add your butter into the dry ingredients, also known as the reverse creaming method, you're coating all of that flour in delicious fat, which is inhibiting the gluten and creating a more cakey, fluffy, delicious cake, less bready. 3/4 of a cup of room temperature unsalted butter into that mix. I'm gonna add a few daubs, mix on low. Continue adding. Okay, let's take a look. I want to show you the crumb. So you're ending up with a beautiful crummy mixture like this. It's gonna be amazing once we add our wet mixture in. I'm going to prepare my 3 6-inch pans by buttering and flouring them. Just get some cold butter, rub it along the edges, add some flour in, kick it around. Transfer the flour to the next pan. That looks perfect. And continue kicking it around. I'm adding on my cake strips now. If you want to see how to make your own or how these work, go ahead and click up over here somewhere for my how to get flat cake layers video. All right, now that my pans are prepared, it's time to finish off that cake batter. I'm adding half of the liquid and then beating it together for maybe 1.5 minutes, and then adding the rest in and beating for another minute. On low. Now for the rest of the cake batter, let's scrape the bowl down. All right, mix for a minute. Transfer the batter in, and after I do that, I'll show you how to measure and make sure you have pretty exact layers if you don't have a kitchen scale at home. So if you don't have a kitchen scale, go ahead and use a skewer, and kind of like you're checking the oil in a car, just check the depth. And those are pretty much about right. Into the oven at 350 for probably 35 minutes. We'll see exactly in the titles below. While the cake's in the oven, we're gonna make our lemon curd using those 6 egg yolks. So the first step is to strain them into a medium pot. I'm cutting up a stick of butter, or 1/2 of a cup, that's chilled, it has to be cold, into small cubes. We'll be whisking this into the curd at the end after it's reached that magical 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I need 1/3 of a cup of lemon juice, fresh again, so 2 medium-sized lemons should be enough, but we'll see. Measure out that 1/3 of a cup. I'm using a French whisk for this, and if you didn't know, a French whisk is just narrower so it can really hit the corners of the pot and you won't get any burnt parts. Very useful. And now start adding in a cup of granulated sugar. See it turning a beautiful light lemon color? I really love this, it's so cheerful. So today we're making a lemon curd, but you don't have to restrict yourself to that one fruit. You can make an orange curd, a strawberry curd, raspberry, blackberry, blueberry, basically anything you want using this same method. 1/3 of a cup of the juice along with the 6 egg yolks and 1 cup of sugar. Really simple. All right. We're gonna add our lemon juice in and then give it a whisk. Drizzle in that lemon juice. We're whisking our curd over low heat until it reaches 170 degrees. Make sure you keep whisking because if you don't, you'll have a burnt yolk part on the bottom and nobody wants that. Once it hits 170, you'll notice a change in consistency and you can dip a wooden spoon in, see if it holds the curd, run your finger down it, and you should see that finger mark left intact. Now it's time to add in your 1/2 cup of cubed chilled butter into that beautiful yellow curd. Whisk it in and we can transfer it to cool. My lemon curd is all done. Look at this amazingness. Oh, I love that color, it's beautiful. It does, however, need to set in the fridge for a while, so let's pour that into a bowl and leave it to chill. That is like a little bit of sunshine. It is delicious. We're gonna cover this up and refrigerate. So I just want to show you how you can tell when your cake is done. If you look closely, you can see it's pulling away from the pan, and of course, when I stick a skewer in, it comes out clean. And if I touch it, it has a little spring to it. Now it's done. Leave it in the pan to cool for like 4 minutes, and then we can invert it onto a wire rack to cool completely. They cool down for 4 minutes, and now we're gonna invert onto our wire rack. Look at these flat, beautiful layers. It smells so good. I wish I could try it out, but we're gonna let this cool down while we work on our buttercream. To make our elderflower Swiss meringue buttercream, we're gonna start off by separating our egg whites and egg yolks. Make sure your eggs are room temperature. I have mine sitting in a warm water bath because they were straight out of the fridge and I needed to make them room temperature real quick. Okay. Normally I say it doesn't matter if you get a little bit of yolk in your whites in the batter. This time it does matter a lot, so be very careful. I'm gonna add in a pinch of salt and 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. Give this a good whisk. If you feel this right now, you're gonna see, oh my gosh, so grainy. You can feel every little piece of sugar. When we're done with this, and it's been whisked over the bain-marie, you'll find out that it's gonna be smooth, warm, and perfect. You can use a thermometer, but using your fingers is a pretty good guess too. We're gonna do all this whisking on top of a pot of simmering water because we wanna gently heat our eggs, not heat them so that they turn into like a nasty egg white omelet situation. Just make sure you're gonna whisk, whisk, whisk over the heat. Of course, the bowl should not touch the water. It's the steam that's gently heating it. If you have a little helper, this is a perfect time for them to come and assist. You'll notice that it becomes much wider and more kind of like a thin meringue by the time we're done with this. We're whisking this until it gets to 160, by the way. Right now it's at 100 degrees, so a few minutes more. All right, so we just hit 160. Thank you, thermometer. And if I feel it with my hands, ooh, it's hot. Well, it's like warm hot, and it's super gooey and smooth. Perfect. Now we're gonna transfer it to our standing mixer with a whisk attachment and whip it up. Whip it up until it is a beautiful silky meringue that's room temperature. Just like Italian buttercream, you can't put the butter in until the meringue is at room temperature. I'm pouring my hot egg white mixture in, and I'm gonna use a spatula just to make sure I get it all out. Don't waste it. We're starting off with this. It's a thick, delicious goo, and we're gonna end up with a silky, beautiful meringue. I also want to point out you should definitely make sure that your bowl and whisk are totally clean. Any doubts, just rub a lemon on them, a cut lemon of course, and then wipe it down, or even use some vinegar just to make sure there's no fat there. We're gonna mix this on medium high until it's nice and whipped up. Okay, you're gonna see that after just a few minutes, your meringue is gonna be silky, beautiful, and strong. However, it's still a bit too warm. If you feel it with your finger, it needs to be totally room temperature, not warm. If it's warm, your butter will melt and it'll become kind of a bit of a mess. Not the end of the world, it just means that you'll have to keep whipping it up until the butter kind of solidifies up and you get the right consistency. Or if it's really warm, I often just pop it into the freezer and leave it there for 5 minutes to chill out and then give it a whip and it's fine. I mean, I say often, but that only happens to me every once in a while when I'm running a little bit too fast. If you're in a hurry, by the way, you can totally pack your bowl with some like frozen peas or ice packs and it chills it down really quick. Close that back up. We're gonna whip on low until we reach room temperature and just don't hurry it. Take some time. Go lick some flowers. Okay, everything's at room temperature and we're gonna add our butter in. Instead of cutting mine into cubes, I'm just going to take little slices off and kind of toss them in there. Works fine. We're adding in 1 3/4 cup of unsalted butter at room temperature. Mind you, room temperature, not cool, not a little bit hard, but not runny either. Just tossing handfuls of butter into this bowl. Don't worry about it, it's a cake. So taking a look right now, you can see the consistency starting to change. It's not soupy, but it's not as kind of firm as you want. So make sure you scrape the bowl down, close that back up, and continue to whip. While we whip though, I'm gonna add in a tablespoon of my elderflower syrup. I might add a little bit more, but I wouldn't add less. Definitely gonna add a 2nd tablespoon in. I'm adding a 3rd tablespoon in. What can I say? I always recommend giving a final whip to your buttercream before you apply it, especially for a meringue-based buttercream. They really lose consistency kind of quickly, so right before you put it in a piping bag or smear it on, just give it a final whip. You can even just use your spatula and whip it up, or put a paddle attachment on. Okay, we're gonna set this aside, and now it's time for some roses and flowers. To decorate this cake, you could totally top it with some beautiful peonies, which are in season now, some roses, whatever flowers you like. Beautiful, easy, and kind of has a nice rustic quality to it. However, I am gonna do some buttercream flowers because I like everything on a cake to be edible. I don't want people to have to pick things off, but that's just me. To do that, I could use Swiss meringue buttercream, but I'm gonna be honest with you and tell you that those flowers can get really droopy fast, especially in warmer weather, because while a meringue buttercream is silky and amazing and sent from heaven, it doesn't do well in heat and it's just not a really stiff buttercream. So we're going to make a small batch of American buttercream, which is much sweeter, but great for those decorative elements. If you wanted a heat-proof, beautiful substance to make flowers with, go ahead and whip up some of that Korean white bean paste frosting. I've tried it. It was pretty time intensive, but there's other ways to do it too, and it tastes like beans, but it's perfect visually. We're making American buttercream. So 1¾ cup of room temperature unsalted butter into our mixing bowl, fitted with a paddle attachment. Cream the butter for a few minutes on like medium-low. Okay, my butter is all creamy. We're gonna remove the paddle attachment. Now we're gonna sift our sugar. You always sift sugar when you're piping anything delicate like a flower, because any lump in here will stick in the small, thin parts of your piping tip and ruin everything. You can't use the buttercream if that happens. You'll have to use it for a crumb coat or some non-decorative situation. Okay, very important. I'm adding in about a pound and a half. This has to be a very thick buttercream for my style of rose. It's gonna be sweet, but we're not eating a lot of it. It's just a couple flowers. It's always a good idea to add your sugar in a couple batches so that it's more manageable in the mixer. Sift it out and mix on low. Okay, look at this situation. Having added half the sugar in, you can see this is really buttery and delicious, but so weak. Boom, add some more sugar in. When I'm making buttercream for flowers, my first and foremost concern is consistency. So add more or less sugar in to get the right consistency. Tea towel back on and mix again. Okay, don't let go of the tea towel. That's important. Glad that was on or it could have made a mess. Hold it. All right, so I want you to see that now buttercream is a very different consistency. It looks kind of crazy, but when you smooth it out, you can see it's totally smooth, nice, and dense. So at this point, you can add in your flavoring. I'm adding in a teaspoon of rose water because I think it's nice for the roses to smell and taste like roses. Your buttercream is now ready to separate into batches, add coloring to, and pipe. Now we're taking a larger batch of buttercream and we're gonna mix in some soft pink food coloring. Soft pink is the only pink that I use when I'm making roses because it's so much more realistic. That hot supermarket bakery pink that you can get out of normal sets is just too much. Even if you use a little bit, still too much. When you're making realistic flowers, it always helps to have a gradient. So you fill one half of the piping bag with one shade, the other half with another shade or even white, and then when you pipe it out, it gives it more depth and realism. The rest of it we'll leave white for now. We will be piping some white flowers as well, and we're gonna color a little bit of it with some matcha powder for our leaves. I'm gonna try doing a classic rose with a 127 tip for my first flower. Smear a bit of buttercream onto your work surface, pat on your square of parchment paper, and let's get started. Taking some of my thick buttercream, I'm gonna place it on there and make a little mound out of it. I'm using my 127 tip and I'm gonna make a little spiral to start off with. Once your spiral is complete, you can start making little arcs that will overlap. There we go. That's a perfectly nice flower, and when we finish, we'll be using our scissors to cut the flower off and place it onto the cake. And we'll do a spiral, a little bit looser this time. If your rose looks a little bit wonky, feel free to take off one of the petals or to use a toothpick to kind of manipulate it as you see fit. It doesn't have to be perfect right out of the piping tip. You can totally move it around here or there. Okay, now it's time to decorate that cake. We're gonna start off with a ring of buttercream on the first layer, but make your ring thicker than I did, because this was a problem. Also put a dot of buttercream in the center, then add your lemon curd. Okay, now you can add your second layer on. Just a ring of the buttercream, fill it up with the curd, and add your final layer on top of that. You might want to pop this into the fridge now at this point if it becomes unstable. Now coat the cake completely with your beautiful and delicious elderflower Swiss meringue buttercream. Use a bench scraper to smooth the side and an offset spatula to smooth the top. So to finish the smoothing, you're going to work on your edge by using your offset spatula to bring in the edge on top as you turn the cake. Do that a couple of times, don't overwork it, and then pop it into the fridge to chill for a while. You're gonna add maybe like a little crescent of buttercream on top, just so your flowers can adhere to that and also be lifted up a bit, because we always love a little bit of height. Place your flowers onto your crescent of buttercream, and add a couple in the front or on the back if you want to. Now use your 68 tip to pipe some leaves and give a little bit of visual interest. It's kind of optional because I actually loved the way this cake looked with just the white buttercream and the very, very pale pink flowers, but I think the leaves gave you a little bit of definition and interest. Okay, I'll admit I was a little skeptical at first about the whole lemon elderflower situation. Clearly, I just made it because of the royal wedding, but I'm so glad I did because it's delicious. Elderflower is like slightly citrusy, very floral, delicate. Lemon, clearly you know what that tastes like. Together, they're a match made in heaven. I'll be eating this and that and that and that. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Make this a recipe. Hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe.